What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Got a few things I want to talk about in this video today. Just a couple of news items that have come across my desk that I think are worth spending a couple of minutes on, separate from the practice video later today, whatever that video is going to end up being. I don't know if there's going to be a heck of a lot of information coming out of the VMAC today, but regardless, if there is stuff, I will talk about it. This video is going to be a little bit separate from that because it's just a few different little bits of information that on their own don't add up to a ton, but you put it all together into like a stew. I think you got something that is relatively, at the very least, edible. Maybe not necessarily robust, but few news items that I think are worth covering. First, about this upcoming preseason game, the Friday night game against the Chiefs. Once again, I will be live streaming the game. Once again, I will be doing a play-by-play. I will be doing the watch-along. I won't have the game on screen. I can't. So don't even ask. I won't have the game on screen, but I will be live streaming this game's reaction, the watch-along. So according to Greg Bell here, and this is notable because I think there was some anticipation that the Chiefs would be playing a pretty good chunk of their starters for at least part of the game. But according to Blair, excuse me, Blair Kirchhoff, Andy Reid seems to be indicating that at the very least, you won't be seeing their stars. Mahomes, Kelsey, Jones were listed as three players in particular that you're not likely to see on Friday. Gardner Minshew was the quarterback one in Chiefs practice today. And look, Kelsey makes all the sense in the world. Kelsey has minimal gas left in the tank. Kelsey is probably right near the end of his career. He will be lucky if he has a good full season this year, honestly. You're already pushing it. That's a guy who I think you could make a pretty good argument is already past his expiration date. So not playing him in the preseason makes all the sense in the world. You want him to save whatever gas he has left for games that count. But it is a little bit surprising and maybe even a little bit disappointing. We're not going to get to see Mahomes, Jones. And with that, I would also assume you're not going to see guys like Creed Humphrey. You're not going to see guys like Nick Bolton, even McDuffie, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're better players by and large. Sound like they're not going to play on Friday, and it's not a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is the end of the world, but it would have been fun, even if it was just for a few minutes, to see some of their best players go up against maybe some of our best players. Now, are we going to respond to this by not playing our starters either? I don't know. I think that you kind of need to do what you feel like you need to do. And whatever the other team does, that's their business. I still kind of expect to see a decent chunk of starters against the Chiefs. But one thing, the part of the impetus for the Seahawks playing their starters in this game was supposedly because they expected the Chiefs to play theirs. Now, you may see a handful of starters. You might see some of the lower level offensive linemen, some of the lower level safeties, some of these guys that aren't studs, but are decent, good players that are probably going to start for them. You might see them. Doesn't seem like you're going to see a star-studded lineup, though. So that's news item number one. We'll talk more about that game tomorrow. We'll talk about the game a lot tomorrow. Moving beyond that, though, I want to talk about this article that got posted to Field Goals earlier this morning, talking about Anthony Bradford. And I'm not going to go over the whole article in this video. If you want to read the whole article, go to Field Goals and read it. I went up this morning. John Gilbert, should be easy to find. But the title of the article is Clint Kubiak shares why Seahawks like Anthony Bradford. And basically it just kind of runs down a little bit of a timeline of what is going on with Anthony Bradford, not just this offseason, but going back to last year when Grubb was here, going back to his rookie season a little bit even. And I think this is a good read because a lot of people, justifiably so, are really worried about Anthony Bradford. And they don't like the fact that it looks like he's going to be the starter. Excuse me, I got a little cough. They don't like the fact that it looks like he's going to start at right guard because he has been such a frustrating player in the first couple years of his career. But this article, I think, can help, at the very least, make you feel good for now. Now, maybe you're not going to feel good when the season starts and he's committing multiple penalties a game and he's a turnstile. Like, nothing's going to make you feel better if that happens. But there's some stuff in here that I think is worth going over. Some of the quotes from Kubiak from yesterday's presser. The one tweet that I want to share from the article in particular, this is from Brady Henderson yesterday, pretty late in the afternoon. Kubiak talking about Bradford. AB has made great strides. Obviously, he's a physical presence, but you see more consistency in his game throughout camp. So I see a guy that is playing more confident. And this is definitely something that, as a someone that is hopeful about Anthony Bradford, somebody that really hopes he can figure this out, this is something that I really like hearing. Now, maybe Kubiak's just going to be super positive for the time being, but the issue with Bradford is his consistency. So the fact that he specifically calls out seeing more consistency in his game throughout camp, that is something that gives you hope for at least a few minutes. Now, again, we need to see it on the field. We need to see it in meaningful games. We need to see it in the regular season. We need to see it against good competition. But this is a quote that at the very least is going to make you feel like maybe he's not just getting handed this job. Maybe he's getting the job because he actually is stepping forward. Because I want to stress this again. I know that his tremendous athleticism does not always fully translate to on the field. I understand that. I know that his RAS score is not showing up in all the ways we would like to on the field. I get that. But he is a good athlete. He is capable of doing the things you need an offensive lineman to do physically in a Kubiak system. That is not in doubt. What is in doubt is his ability to hammer those physical abilities into good, solid on-field play. So when I hear you're seeing more consistency in his game throughout camp, and I think back to those conversations we have had many times on this channel, where this guy was very raw coming out of college. He played, I think, like 17 starts at LSU. This is not a Christian Haynes situation. Christian Haynes was a 5-year starter at UConn. Bradford wasn't even a starter for a season and a half. He came out raw. And you think about how hard that must have been for him to overcome these last 2 years. And ultimately, he didn't really overcome it because he was mostly a bad player. It makes you think that there is some possibility of him being better in 2025 and maybe even becoming a starting caliber player on a good offensive line. Maybe he won't be good himself, but maybe he can be part of a productive, competent offensive line. I think it can happen. I'm higher on AB than most. I think a lot of people just think he's trash and want to throw him away. A lot of people are just done with him. I don't think this book has been written yet. Remember, McDonald had comments earlier in camp. This was over a month ago, I think, talking about how much better his body shape was, talking about physically they felt like he was in a better place. There's some stuff here. Okay, one last thing, because this has been kind of the marquee topic for Seahawks fans not related to the Seahawks in recent days, and I've talked about it a couple times already, but I want to go back to it. No Matthew Stafford still as the Rams go through their practices. This is from a little earlier today. This is just from a couple hours ago from Adam Grosbard. Still no Stafford. Still not taking the practice field. And I mean, look, we're still a month away from the season. Well, a little less than a month from regular season games now. But there is definitely a building sense that he is at the very least not going to start the season. So if we are looking at an NFC West where the Rams are without their quarterback and have to try to survive the pretty significant downgrade from Stafford to Jimmy G. And I've said this before, and it bears repeating. Stafford was not that great last year. He had some real problems last year, especially as the season went on. He wore down. But there is a significant step back going from Stafford to Garoppolo. So if the Rams have to go through that, and the Niners are going through all the issues they're going to, where people are getting hurt constantly, they're down so many receivers, their defensive line looks really thin, like all the issues that team is having, then, I mean, first of all, the way is starting to clear a little bit for these Seahawks. So that's why we follow this stuff. It's so important. It's so notable. And we may end up in a scenario by the time we get to week 1. Because remember, we play the Niners week 1. So whatever disadvantages they have at the start of the season, we're going to get to go up against. We may get to the season and find out Stafford starting the season on injured reserve, and the Niners are down all of these players. It may be a situation where not only we can win the NFC West, but we should at that point, right? Like you, at a certain point, you look at it and you go, you got no excuses. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there. All right, I'm going to get out of here. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Everybody have a good day. Probably another video later, streaming on Twitch later. You guys know the drill. See you later.